Hello, and here we are again, another weekly video living with Alzheimer's, and I believe this is week number 36, I think. Today I want to talk a little bit about thought process and the problems that people like me with Alzheimer's and dementia have in processing thoughts. And it's a question that I've been asked quite a bit over a period of time, and I'm going to try and explain it today, because I think sometimes it's difficult for people from the outside, because people just see you as a person and they don't always see the complicated issues that we have trying to think things through. So I think the first example that I want to really give about this is that something that everybody goes through, and I myself have been through, and I know that everybody has, going to a cupboard or going to a room in a house and getting there and thinking, what did I come here for? And that is the start. That is the start of you learning or knowing what this gap in the thought process of somebody like me is. That's something that little scenario is something that we go through all the while, every day, 24/7. Not exactly going to a room and thinking, what did I come in here for? But all aspects of our daily thinking. When thoughts are processed and when people think of things, you have what I seem to call it as a train of thoughts, a line of thoughts. People like us, me, well, I say people like us, I'm sure that others with Alzheimer's will agree, that this train of thought, for myself anyway, there are gaps in this train of thoughts, gaps that I can't really bridge. And trying to do things is very difficult sometimes. Classic example, making a cup of tea. There is a thought process involved in making a cup of tea, and yet sometimes I get this process wrong, because there are gaps that my mind can't bridge in order to achieve making a cup of tea in the correct way. And I think one of the things is also being under pressure. Now, if somebody said to me, take that puzzle apart, a cube puzzle for argument's sake, take it apart and put it back together, and you have an hour and a half to do it in, I would probably do it pretty well, because I would gradually over a period of time be able to do it. If someone says take that cube puzzle apart and put it back together, you have half an hour to do it in, then I would probably struggle, because my mind doesn't do pressure anymore. It works at a different rate to everybody else's. And I've said this many times before about our minds being small, high-revving engines, and your minds being larger, chonkier, clunkier engines. And that is exactly true, and I often come back to that because I think it's a great way of explaining. So my mind is revving like mad to do something, and it gets tired, and it gets also I get frustrated as a result. So there are gaps in the thought process, and they're gaps that are very difficult to try and fill. And I think if you take the idea of going to a cupboard or a room, or even driving in your car sometimes, I mean, one of the other things that I try and relate to this thought process problem is that, and I know everybody has done this, if you're driving along in your car on a regular route, you'll come to a certain point and you can't remember, did I go around that roundabout? Did I go underneath the bridge? I don't remember going past the factory with a big chimney, but I must have done, because I'm there. So that there are gaps in your thought train, but they're gaps there that are natural there, and are there because you're just on autopilot. But those same gaps are there with people like me, but we can't fill them. We can't make the gaps smaller. And as time goes on, unfortunately, the gaps become bigger, and they become more of a challenge to try and hurdle over. So I hope that sort of answered that question a little bit. And I think, in actual fact, I think that talking about thought processes and the way that things are, I think that over a period of the last 3 years, my thought process has changed quite a lot. And I probably find it difficult to try and think things through so much now. I mean, an example is I could no longer run my family business that I ran for many years. That would be a complete no-no. There are so many things that have changed mentally as far as that sort of thought process goes. But in saying that, exercise is always very good, because I find cycling, I don't find that a complicated thought process. It also helps with balance. And I think any form of exercise is good because it's not a complicated thing to do, and it doesn't have to be hard work, and it can be done at your own pace, your own speed, and also you have the feeling of achieving something at the end of it. And I think, you know, when I go cycling I sometimes get lost, but I think actually, to be honest with you, the benefits really outweigh the negatives. Getting lost, well, hey, I always come back because I'm here, so it's all pretty good. And I think one of the ironic things about having Alzheimer's is that, in actual fact, the less time that I have, really, in theory, I choose to take more time to do things. So that's rather an ironic thing. So try and remember that if you're with somebody with this condition, that our thought processes work a lot slower, and there are quite biggish gaps in that process, and it's very difficult for us to bridge those gaps, if at all. But in actual fact, we are quite resilient. We are quite we do tend to try and this is a classic example of trying to put thoughts together, and I can't really do it. I can't really find the words, but we try to overcome, and we try to strive forward. So, getting on to a different thing now, the cycle challenge. I've been training hard because the weather has changed and it's better, and it's a lovely, bright, sunny day out there today. So I'm going to finish this video now, and I'm going to get on my bike, and I'm going to do some more training and some more stuff to lighten the mood and make me feel alive again. So I'm off on my bike. Have a great weekend. Have a wonderful week, and I will be here again next week with you. Now, oh, by the way, this week Christina was supposed to be here with me, but it didn't quite work out with the bad weather. Things got pushed back a little bit. So in actual fact, it's going to be next Friday that Chris is here with me. So so that's a change. So yeah, hey, I remembered that. So that's good. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you again next week. Thank you. Bye.